Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome back to Mr. Morrow's algebra class. How you all doing today? Today we are going to start talking about, rather introducing, very important concept called polynomials. But before we get into polynomials, I want to go a little bit back in time, okay? Earlier in the year, I don't know if you remember, hopefully you do, we talked about terms, like terms, coefficients, and constants. Do those names ring a bell to you at all? Okay, some of you are shaking your head. That's good. That's good. A term. If you remember, a term is any number, variable, or product of any real number or numbers and one or more variables with whole number exponents. A term is just any number, variable, or the product of numbers and variables, like 12 or W or 6x or negative 3xy z cubed. It's just a number, a variable, or the product of numbers and or variables. Like terms. Like terms, I think you may remember my example from before. Like terms are terms that have the same variable raised to the same power. All real numbers are like terms also. Any numbers can be added together. And only like terms can be added or subtracted. The example I had given you back a few months ago was, if you're at the grocery store and your mom tells you to get 5 apples, and then she tells you get 5 more oranges. You come back with both 5 apples and 5 oranges. Do you guys have 10 apples? Do you have 10 oranges? You have 5 apples and 5 oranges, right? Why can I not combine them? They're not the same fruit, not the same object. Awesome. It's like when I tell you, you got 5 cars and 7 motorcycles. You have 12 cars? You have 12 motorcycles? You have 5 cars and 7 motorcycles. So only like terms can be added, and like terms, again, have the same variable raised to the same power. Let's look at some examples of terms and of like terms. Again, some examples of terms. 5, that's a number, that's a term. 3x squared y cubed, those are numbers and variables being multiplied together. That's one term. 2x, that's a number and a variable being multiplied together. That's one term. 4xw, that's a number and variables being multiplied together. Okay? Now, a couple things. What was a number by itself called? Do you guys remember? A number by itself was called a constant. A whole number are numbers greater than or equal to 0 that do not include decimals or fractions, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But a number by itself in an expression is called a constant. What is this number being multiplied in front of the variable? What is that number called? What are those called? Coefficients. Very good. The coefficient is the number being multiplied in front of the variable. It's the number in front of the variable. It's the number being multiplied to the variable. Somebody said base. No. If I have x to the n, x is my base, n is my exponent. Please don't confuse these terms. It's very important for you to understand vocabulary. Now, let's look at some examples of like terms. 2x and 3x, they're both the same variable raised to the same power. So those are like terms. 5x squared y cubed and 3x squared y cubed. They both have the same variables, x and y. And the x has an exponent of 2 in both of them. And the y has an exponent of 3 in both of them. So that means that they are like terms. They have the same variables raised to the same powers. 23 and 18, yeah, they're like terms too, guys. They're like terms because they're numbers. And all numbers are like terms. You can add any numbers together. Okay? So now that we've had a little review of terms, like terms, coefficients, and constants, now we can dive into polynomials, which are created, believe it or not, from terms. Okay? They are created from terms. How does this work? I'm going to give you the basic polynomial. The most basic polynomial on this planet is called a monomial. A monomial is a one-term polynomial. Okay? What's a polynomial? A polynomial is a monomial or the sum or difference of several monomials. So a monomial is any real number, variable, or product of any real number or numbers and one or more variables with whole number exponents in the numerator. This is so important for you to really commit to memory. A monomial or any polynomial is only a polynomial if and only if the variables are all in the numerator and the variables have positive whole number exponents. For example, all of these are polynomials. Monomials, rather. 6, that's a monomial. That is a one term. That is a number, so it's a monomial. Negative 4y squared. The y is in the numerator. The y has an exponent of 2. So that means it's a whole number exponent. That's a monomial. X. X is in the numerator. It has an exponent of 1. So that means it has a whole number exponent. So that is a monomial. W over 3. W is in the numerator. And it has a positive whole number exponent of 1 that's invisible. So it's a monomial. 2.5x y cubed. X and y are both in the numerators. And they both have whole number exponents. So that makes them monomials. So a monomial is just a one-term polynomial. A monomial is just a one-term polynomial. Examples of non-monomials. Please pay attention to these. 8 over x. Why would this not be a monomial, gentlemen? Sir? Because you have a variable in the denominator. Good. X over square root of y. Why would this not be a monomial? Yes, sir? No, because why? Because there's a variable in the denominator. X to the negative 4. Why is that not a monomial? Sir? Very good. When you simplify it, it's in the denominator. Also, is that a positive whole number? No. Now, let's separate the A's from the B pluses. Is this a monomial? Yes, it is, because when you simplify this, this is 2x to the 4th, x in the numerator, and it has a positive whole number exponent. So you have to analyze it and look at what you're given to see if it is or is not a monomial. Do you have a question, my man? Thank you, sir. May I continue, gentlemen? We're good so far? Okay. Now, degree. The degree of a monomial and the degree of a polynomial are similar, but I have to go step by step here, okay? So please pay attention, ask questions if you don't understand. The degree of a monomial of just a single term, the degree of one term, is the sum of the exponents of its variables, and only of its variables. Why don't the exponents of the numbers count? Because the degree of non-zero constants is 0. The degree of any number, like 7, the degree of 7 is 0. The degree of 5 squared, since that equals 25, the degree of 25 is 0. That does not mean that the exponent is 0. That means that the degree is 0. Does that make sense? Okay. Also, in blue, look at what I'm saying. The degree of any number is 0, but 0 itself does not have a degree at all. So if I say, what is the degree of 0? Very good. The degree of 0 equals none. Not 0, but none. Let's practice. Let's find the degree of each monomial. Yes, sir. The difference in value. Okay, that's a good question. 0 doesn't really have a value. So it's more the question of appearance. The degree of 7 is 0. The degree of 0 is none. There is no degree. 0 is an actual symbol that represents nothingness. But the degree of 0, it isn't even 0. It's nothing. There is no degree. Because it's not a number. It doesn't have a value at all. Thank you, sir. Okay, A, what's the degree here? What's the degree of the 5? What's the degree of the 1, of the x? 1. So what's the degree of this monomial? 1. It's the highest sum of variable exponents. For B, what's the degree? 4. Very good. Why? X has an exponent of 1. Y has an exponent of 3. The degree of a monomial is the sum of the variable exponents. So that degree is 4. C. What is the degree of C? 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. Remember, the degree of 6 is 0, so it does not count for degree. D. What's the degree? E. What's the degree? F. What's the degree of 11? 0. Very good. No, you cannot put none. What's the degree of 0? None. Big difference, my man. Are you sure you understand this? Thank you, sir. Now that we know or have an understanding of monomials, now we can introduce polynomials. Polynomial is a monomial or the sum or difference of monomials. For example, 2x plus 3. 2x is one monomial, and it's being added to a second monomial. So this is a two-term polynomial, and that's called a binomial. We'll get into that in a second. This is one term, negative 8y squared, plus another term, 7x, minus another term, 3w. So this is a three-term polynomial. Trinomial, very good. This is just simply one term. So that's a monomial. Please notice that polynomials are separated by plus and or minus signs. Hence, why I knew how many terms I was given. Think about it. I got 2x plus 3. So that's two terms. I got negative ay squared plus 7x minus 3w. That's 3 terms. Here I've just got one product of 21xyz squared. That's 1 term. So plus or minus signs separate terms. Does that make sense, my brothers? Okay, may I continue? Okay, now, not only can we recognize polynomials by their degree, but we can also recognize them by their term number. A 1-term polynomial is called a monomial. Think of the root, mono. Mono means 1. Bless you. 2 terms is a binomial. Why is it a binomial? Think bicycle. Think biathlete, people that just run and swim. Okay? When you have bilingual, two languages. Don't you have in football bye games? When they have a bye because they skip 2 or something like that? Okay, bye means 2. Trinomial, 3 terms. 3-term polynomial is a trinomial. Think tricycle, triathlete, triangle. Okay? And then, if you have more than 3 terms, so in other words, 4 or more terms, these are called n-term polynomials, where n equals the number of terms. So, this would be called a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-term polynomial. Does that make sense? Gentlemen? You promise? Yes? May I continue? We got this. I don't want to lose anybody. Okay, let's do it. Now, please pay attention. This is the part that gets a lot of people. But I know you are going to understand this. Polynomials are usually written in what is called standard form. And standard form means that the polynomial is written from largest degree to smallest degree. From largest degree to smallest degree. So you have to rearrange polynomials so that you write them where the largest degree is first, and you go in descending order to the lowest degree being last. The degree of a polynomial, how is it determined? The degree of a polynomial is the degree of the highest degreed monomial. So when you see a polynomial, look at every single term. Determine the degree of every single term. The degree of the polynomial belongs to the highest degreed monomial. When written in standard form, the coefficient, which we talked about already, that's the number being multiplied to the variable, the coefficient of the first term is called the leading coefficient. It's called the leading coefficient because since it belongs to the highest degree, it is the first coefficient you're going to see. It is the leading coefficient. So, let's give you an example of how to work this. I got x squared y to the 4th plus xy cubed minus 3x squared y to the 5th. What's the degree of this first term here? What's the degree of this second term here? What's the degree of this last term here? What is the degree of this polynomial? 7. Because it goes to the highest degree polynomial. Does that make sense? Now, let's write this in standard form. So I gotta go highest degree to lowest degree. So what's my highest degree here? So what's the first one? What's the first term going to be? Negative 3x squared y to the fifth, followed by x squared y to the fourth, followed by xy cubed. That would be my polynomial in standard form. Does this make sense? What is the leading coefficient of this polynomial? What is the leading coefficient of this polynomial? Negative 3. The leading coefficient is the coefficient of the largest degree term, of the first term of the polynomial written in standard form. Does this make sense, my friends? You promise. Okay? Let's fill in the blanks here. For every polynomial that I give you here, I want the degree, the name using the degree, the number of terms, and the name using the number of terms. So my polynomial is 15. What is the degree of a number? 0. When you have a 0 degree polynomial, it's called constant. How many terms do I have? What is a one-term polynomial called? Monomial. So, putting it together, 15 is called a constant monomial. Because remember what we said earlier. You name polynomials by degree and term numbers. Okay? And every degree from 1 to 5 has a specific name. You have to memorize these names. Anything higher than 5, I'll show you what to do in a second. Let's look at our next example. What is the degree of this polynomial? 1. When you have a degree of 1, it's like a linear equation. It's linear. Remember y equals mx plus b? X had a power of 1, so it's linear. How many terms do I have? So what is the name of a two-term poly? So this would be called a linear binomial. Next, what is the degree of this next polynomial? No, it is not 3. The degree is 2, guys. X has an exponent of 1, y has an exponent of 1. The degree of 2 is 0. So this has a degree of 2. When you have a second degree polynomial, it's called quadratic. How many terms in this quadratic polynomial? 3 in this particular one. What is a 3-term polynomial called? So put it together, this is called a quadratic trinomial. Next, what is the degree of this polynomial? 3. A third degree polynomial is called cubic. How many terms? What is a 3-term polynomial called? Put it together. This is a cubic trinomial. Well done, son. Next, what is the degree of this polynomial? A 4th degree polynomial is called quartic. Okay? How many terms? 1 term. What is the name of a 1-term poly? Monomial. So this would be a quartic monomial. Last but not least, what is the degree of this last polynomial? 5. The name of a 5th degree polynomial is called quintic. Quintic. How many terms? 4. So, what do we call it's a 4-term polynomial. Very good. Very good. Nicely done, guys. Nicely done. Now, These names you have to memorize. Sorry. 0 degree, constant. First degree, linear. Second degree, quadratic. Third degree, cubic. Fourth degree, quartic. Fifth degree, quintic. What happens with degrees higher than 5? Easy. When you're given polynomials with degrees higher than 5, they are called nth degree polynomials, where n is the degree of the polynomial. Okay? When given polynomials with more than 3 terms, they are simply called n-term polynomials, where n equals the number of terms in the polynomial. For example, this guy here, 5x to the 6th plus 3x to the 4th minus 2x cubed minus x squared plus 12 would be a 6th degree 5-term polynomial. Does that make sense? You promise? Okay. Now, you guys remember that I gave you that, you have 2 QR code readers. You have Enigma, and then I gave you that new one, QRafter. I want you to open up your iPads. I want you to click on this link. Let's do the odds. The answers are attached. I'm going to walk around the room and make sure that you got this perfect. Thank you very much. I hope you learned a lot. And get to work.